What's up, guys? Nishi
and Oscar
from MST.TV here, and today we're going to be discussing the ARG ban list. So last weekend, ARG announced that they're going to be having their own ban list for their own types of tournaments and stuff.
Yeah, so the ban list they said was going to be used primarily for the 1K tournament or their Metro series, but they also were not very clear onto how this ban list will be used, so they may actually be using it for their premier events. We don't know, and only ARG knows, so it can be used for either or. It's kind of iffy.
Alright guys, so we're going to talk a little bit about what we think about the ban list, what happened, and there are a few things that we kind of think were abnormal that we want to talk to you guys about. So the first thing being the banning of Jhin. So personally, I think that Jhin should be banned, as you guys know from our previous ban list discussion video. I know that Oscar feels very differently about this. So.
No, I don't feel like Jhin should be banned at all. Jhin has been a card that existed in Yu-Gi-Oh! For a very, very long time, and there has been ritual decks like Gishki that haven't used it at all. It's only Necros because they have so many level 3, 6, and 9 monsters that can use Jhin very effectively. So I really feel like Jhin should not be punished, but Necros itself should be punished. Yeah, again, Jhin should not be banned, should be touched. OCG has not been touched, so it's really weird that ARG would ban it, and I feel like they're just appeasing players. They're saying, oh my god, Jhin is broken, please hit this card. I'm tired of getting Jhin locked.
Fair enough. I'm just kind of sick of playing in a format where, like, when you're looking at people playing their decks, one of the main questions is, what is your out to this individual card? And I feel like that's just not something that's healthy for the game. Anyways, on to the next card. Another banned card that kind of drew my attention was Lavolval Chain. So this is a rank 4 Xyz monster. You guys know what it does. You can detach a material to either dump a card to the graveyard or to top deck a monster. Oscar, what are your thoughts on this?
So Lavolval Chain, there's a lot of discussion around this card, and honestly, I've talked to some players, and some really good players that I respect have been telling me that Lavolval Chain should be banned. Now the reasoning that they told me was that the card creates all these really nutty combos that would never exist in the first place. You know, you see these crazy YouTube videos where they're making 3 Lavolval Chains and then recycling it and then making it again just to do this crazy combo, like give your opponent Exodia or fucking call Sideblock on every single card in the game. And they're all using Lavolval Chain to abuse this. And if we simply ban Lavolval Chain, decks like Infernities or Gateway for 6 Samurai can come back and they won't be as abusable. So that's a really good argument for banning Lavolval Chain. At the same time, I really don't feel like this is the case. Lavolval Chain is really useful for tier 2 and tier 3 decks that really help these decks play the game more consistently. And they should really just be hitting the tier 1 meta decks like Necros instead of focusing or punishing the tier 2 or tier 3 decks.
Yeah, that's true. I think that something you have to consider here is if you look at Lavolval Chain's individual effects, so its ability to dump a card to the graveyard, I mean, that by itself isn't really a broken effect. I mean, you see it in cards like Mathematician or Foolish Burial that have more or less like almost the exact same effect. So I don't think it's fair to say that Lavolval Chain is a broken card. I think that where it becomes abused is where you're making Lavolval Chain multiple times in a single turn. I think that that's a little bit excessive. So I think personally that limiting Lavolval Chain would be a much more effective way of handling these like loops and sequences, just because it still gives decks that do play it the option to dump a card or the option to top deck a monster without being overly broken.
Alright, so the next card ARG has banned is Necros of Trishula. Now this card single-handedly has decided this format. People are just setting cards randomly so they don't get trished, or doing these really ridiculous plays to not get trished, like summoning Unicorn, Manju Valk, and then tributing them all off to draw cards just because they don't want to avoid one card. This card has made Necros the best deck of the format, and there's a lot of good reasons why they want to hit it. But personally, I don't feel like banning Trishula is the way to go. I really feel Konami doesn't want to remove the character of the deck, and Trishula is really the main card, the main boss monster of Necros. Sure, there's Gungnir or Decisive Armor, but Trishula is where it's at. People want to play Necros because they want to use Trishula's effect. Now they should really just be hitting the engine cards, so getting out Trishula is harder, so it becomes comparatively more rewarding. But hitting Trishula itself would make the deck really just unplayable, and Necros players will feel like playing an ARG tournament, their Necros deck is just pointless. They've wasted their money.
I think that without Trishula in the deck is actually a bit too fragile. I mean, you always have the potential to brick, but without Trishula, you're not really working towards any really big power play. You can generate advantage through the mirrors or through Valkyris, but honestly, Trishula is the really big play. I think it's the single strongest individual monster effect in the game right now, very similarly to when the Synchro Trishula was actually playable. Yeah, so I mean, I don't think Trish should be banned either, but it'll be interesting to kind of see what happens with ARG formats and how Necros players react there.
Yeah, Necros is dead. Dead in that format. Well, you cannot play Necros in that format. The deck is unplayable. Anyways, the last thing we want to talk about is the fact that the ban list had no Satellar hits. Now, I find this really odd because pretty much everything was hit. Even Cliff Warp was hit a little, with Summoner's Arch going to 2. But Tellars weren't hit at all, and the deck is actually still pretty strong. I mean, it's basically Deneb in set 5, but the deck is essentially the control deck.
Yeah. The deck, it's still really strong. It still has the ability to flood the field. And I mean, with none of the other decks getting hit at all, with all of the other decks really taking severe hits, like BA got hit, BA lost 2 Seer and 1 Dante. Shadal's only have El Shadal Fusion and Construct at 1. So I mean, like, it's really not looking too great for those decks, but it's really looking good for Teleknights in that format, and possibly Cliport with the Tower Turbo and Swaying Gaze and everything coming out.
Yeah, so if you want to see the rest of the ARG list, you can check out in the description below. But right now we're going to talk about some other issues that we have.
Yeah, so one thing that came up at Nationals is certain ARG players being aware potentially of the ARG ban list like several days or even a week before it was actually released. So apparently what happened is at Nats, certain ARG representatives were acquiring lots of copies of Teleknight Deneb, Stellar Nova Alpha, and the Ixies monsters, so Delteros, Trever, and Diamond. And there's some rumors going on about ARG players being aware of this ban list and picking up the cards a lot earlier so that they can make a profit on those cards, because they were under the impression that Teleknights would actually be the best deck going into the new ARG format.
Right. So, I mean, again, this is hearsay. We were not at Nats personally, and we just heard it from other people. But this is a really, I guess, popular rumor that's going around. And we can't fault the players or name any specific players in general. That would be poor of us to do. But this is something that really should not have happened. Now, the last thing we want to discuss is actually that ARG has some serious policy issues. Now, if you know or have read Konami policy, or if you're taking the judge test, you'll know that employees, family members, and employees of sister companies of Konami, these people, so including the people who work on the ban list, cannot play in Tier 2 sanctioned events. Now, these are the most competitive ones, like regionals or YCSs or Nats. They just simply can't play for it. They're banned. And this is to avoid a conflict of interest. And I'm not sure about the ARG policy, but from what I've heard, they've been getting the opinions from pro players who are active players and sponsored players for their ban list. However, these players are not banned, which means there is some sort of insider information trading, which is, as we all know, Wall Street. It's a huge issue. So ARG has actually been aware of these policy issues, and they've kind of started changing it. If you have noticed, a lot of the previously sponsored players have had their sponsorship suspended. They have stopped accepting article submissions on their website. The last article was submitted by Patrick Hoban himself. It was a Burning Abyss article basically discussing why Necros lost and Burning Abyss won. It's a great article. I would definitely suggest you to read it, because there probably won't be many articles by players like Patrick Hoban in the near future.
Alright guys, well that's it for this video. If you guys like this video, make sure you guys give it a thumbs up.
If you want to see more, make sure you subscribe.
And until next time, make sure you hold on to your MST.TV. Wow, I almost butchered that.